Hello, it's a brand new week, so we're back at it again. So today we are on book 82. So I'll have Chris tell you about his book.
Yeah, my face is shaven comments out of the way. So if you've been following along with this journey, it'll be weird if you look at all the Club Any YouTube videos and all of a sudden the beard gets longer and longer and longer, and then we're back to square one. So it is still the same person.
It's like magic.
Yeah, it's like just like illusion.
Yes, it's just disappearing act.
But yeah, so the book today though is book 82, and it is Grit, the Power of Passion and Perseverance by Angela Duckworth. Have you guys read this one?
No, I have not.
Snow? Is this one you're familiar with?
Was it by Angela Duckworth? Who was it by?
Yeah, Angela
Yes.
Duckworth. Yeah.
No, I know, like, I've read some of her stuff or listened to some of her stuff.
Yeah, it's a good book. Enjoyed it. I think I had the different impression of what grit meant to me before I went into this book. I thought of grit as like that grit and grind and just hustle culture, and that's what I was thinking like grit was going to really be about. But really it turned out this book's about combining your passion and then enduring and then keep doing it, and that's grit. Like finding grit is to Angela Duckworth is the combination of connecting what you love to do and just keep doing it for a really long period of time, and that's how you find grit, I guess. And that's what she calls it. So I'm fully on board with. I think that's a great idea and stuff that I agree with in general at a high level. If you do the stuff you love, it's a lot easier to keep sticking with it. The longer you keep doing stuff, it'll bear fruit, because you love what you're doing, and it's just easy to not stop. It's what we talk about all the time around values, around mission and purpose and stuff like that, to keep pushing forward. However, that said, the reflection for this particular book was, for me, at the very end of the book, the author Angela Duckworth shared a story about how her family applies grit in her own household. And she did something that they called the hard thing rule. And I really liked this idea. So I wanted to share it with everyone and how I apply the hard thing rule in my own life. So the hard thing rule is everyone in their family has to take on something that is quote unquote hard. They can pick any activity that's challenging that they want to do. It could be learning a piano, training for a marathon, drawing, surfing, whatever. I don't really care. The only rule for the hard thing rule is you have to see it through to the end from when you start, whether you like it or not. So whatever you start, you got to see it through, right? Something that's challenging, you got to see it through. So for me personally, this resonated a ton because it reminds me of this whole entire journey that we've all been on together, and true, you and I specifically, for this whole entire time around, clubbing and living your values and all the other stuff. And for me, it reminded me specifically of like the book that I wrote for my daughter. When I decided to go down that road, I dedicated myself. I wanted to tell her story to the world. I didn't really care how I was going to do that. Writing wasn't always a passion for myself. As a matter of fact, I was really never a writer for my entire life up until my daughter. But I had a story to tell, and I wanted to find an avenue to tell it. So I took on a hard thing rule after she had passed away, where I told myself for her, I was going to sit down for 30 minutes every single day and try to write a page a day until her story was told and I could share that with the world. And that was what I did. Fast forward about a year later, after I started writing, there was a 400-page completed book, and it felt really good to be able to share her story with the world and to keep living my own personal mission. And it was something that really inspired me to want to do a lot of other things. So to keep that whole trajectory going, I decided to do my monthly challenges. That was what spurred me to try something brand new every single month, where, I found out if, I looked at my values and I looked at what I cared about and picked some random thing that I thought might align to it. And then I tested it out. And that's really the whole point of the hard thing rules. We don't know what we care about. We don't know what we're passionate about. We don't know what we're going to find, but it's like, just try some stuff and see what sticks. And eventually you just kind of know when if it really matters or if it doesn't, if you're passionate about it, right? Like, I don't think anybody ever starts, as a writer. I didn't think that I would ever going to be a writer in my life, I guess, but I found my passion along the way, which led to me finding grit through trying the hard thing rule, I guess, and just sticking through it. So long story short, this personal hard thing rule really resonates with myself. Actually, my hard thing challenge this month is to do 20 minutes of cleaning. So I'm just trying to go into a closet or whatever and throw away stuff every single night. And letting go is really what I'm trying to do this month. In the spirit of balance, I'm trying to, let it go and get stuff off my agenda, see if I like it. I don't know that I love it because I don't know that I can make this a part of my life forever, but I'm enjoying this 30-day trial so far, and we'll see how it goes, I guess, at the end of it. But if I really like it, I'll keep it. So that's how I embrace the hard thing rule, and how I like to think of it as a way to try out new activities that align to your values. And if you love it, then you find that passion, and then you find that perseverance because it aligns to your whole entire life. And then all of a sudden you got grit. So I'd love to get your guys' thoughts around the question of what activities can you try out today to reflect your values that just might turn into a passion, and your thoughts on grit in general, or whatever else you want to share. So yeah, I'll kick it over to you guys.
So what do you think, Snow?
One thing I always try to do is I try to read 100 pages of a book. And then I try to reflect it back to like what you guys are reading, or, Chris, what you're reading, what you're talking about. And I think this is really interesting because this word grit really ties into what I was just reading about. And you guys have read this book before, The Molecule of More.
Yeah.
And they talk about how there's like the control circuit and the desire circuit of our brain, controlled by dopamine. And kind of the control circuit of our brain, which like, sure, hey, you have a desire. Let's say, all right, you are going to run a marathon. Well, then your control circuit, like it's like fueled by dopamine. It's like, all right, well, I'm going to start training. I'm going to set this regimen. It's like how you actually do it. And, they've done studies that like actually, the amount of dopamine in a control circuit is actually more hereditary. I think it's really tied into the idea of grit because it's like, yeah, it's persevering. It's logical. It's like having some end in mind and how are you going to get there? And there's also like tools, even like motivational therapy tools that you can do to like, all right, we're talking about like envisioning yourself, or whether it's like the habits book, like tools or whatever to like actually stick to what you want to do. Cause it's hard to just say like, oh yeah, I want that. And then get it. Like it takes time, it takes perseverance, and it does take grit. And I mean, Angela Duckworth, she's popular within the education realm because they're really finding what makes people do well at college or do well in life is this idea of grit and this idea of perseverance. One thing, Chris, I really admire about you is I think you really exemplify it. Like you talk about, doing your 30-day challenges or living your values. And I think it's just really kind of beautiful, actually, in a way. You've cultivated an awesome life for yourself. Saying my hat's off to you because you're really putting this stuff in effect and seeing the neat changes. And you are living like, I don't know if one of your values is curiosity or adventure or something, but it's like you're taking on these new things and like you're seeing how you change. And it for myself, I have this idea of grit or control. Dopamine is something I kind of struggle with. I had another binge eating episode 2 nights ago. Yeah, 2 nights ago. And where that control circuit just did not turn on. Desire circuit. So those are my thoughts right now, or whatever. And maybe I'll kind of save to the next round to answer the last question there. So I want to hear from Trio though.
Okay, so for me, first thing though, I mean, I think I still need to get a handle on what the meaning of this word. I'm not sure why, but for whatever reason, I thought this word is to, like you, Chris, was mentioned before, in the earlier, it's, you think of grit goes with grinding. Grit goes with going against the grain. Even the book is showing the arrow going against the grain. And so to me, it's doing the hard thing, like you do things you don't want to do. That's what I've sensed what the word grit means.
Yeah, like eat the frog, right? I literally just finished that book.
Yeah,
and,
right.
And I was writing about that exact thing this morning of like who wants to eat a damn frog? Like nobody wants to eat a frog. Like you don't find passion in eating raw frogs for morning. You know what I mean? Right. So I'm with you, true. So what do you think? Like that's but that's not what Angela Duckworth is saying in this book.
If that's the definition of the word grit, I mean, I'm not sure what Angela meant by grit, but if what I think grit means is I disagree with the grit, because for me, if you have passion, there's no need to have grit.
Well, passion is a part of grit. Like that's the thing. It's passion and perseverance equals grit is what the book's about.
But like I said, if you have passion, why would you need grit? Because passion to me is like an addiction. I would get it one way or another. If a man with a wife can overcome anyhow, it's because, like, for example, if I have a kid on the other side of 2 skyscraper with one beam going across it, right? And my daughter needs my help and she's in danger. I will find whatever I need to get across. I don't even think about the dangers that I'm going to fall off and anything like that. I just, because I think to me, it's like once you have the passion and the real passion, that means that there are things that you do that seems hard to other people,
right?
But it's easy to you. It's just because
it's fun.
You are so addicted to that.
Right.
I mean, an example would be, the thing is, sometimes we don't know, but once you really understand it, then it's so easy. Because, for example, we're talking about, for me, understanding about how caffeine affects the body, and by what I think of caffeine is doing to my body, and it's just subjective to me, but I don't want that effect. Or I was able to quit, right? Before, in my late 20s and early 30s, I couldn't quit because I didn't understand it, right? And so for me, it's like, I'm thinking about Andre Agassi, for example. He hates tennis, but he didn't find his reason. I mean, everybody has their own reason, but once you find your real reason, then I think grit is not a thing. Because, like, for example, quitting the caffeine isn't hard for me. It was hard when I first quit, but after I learned it, I can do it cold turkey, and I have no symptom, no withdrawal. Same thing with fasting. In the beginning, fasting is terrible. But because I understand what fasting can do for me, fasting is like nothing. Understanding that's the benefit you really want, because different people place different values on the benefit or the effects they have. And for me, because of the value of the fasting it's not hard for me. It's not a hard thing. It's an easy thing. And I've done fasting for 2 months now, and I can see me doing it like until no, I'm not going to stop.
What value did that align to that you really
aligns with my health, optimal health? And so to me, once you have the real reason why you're doing it, you understand it, becomes a passion, then the grunt and the grind isn't a grunt and grind to you. It may seem like a grunt and grind to other people. So for me, once you have a passion for something or real reason for something, then the grit is not needed, because I'm gonna do whether it's good or it's like going against the grain on my myself or not. I'm not doing this because it's like I'm doing it because I'm trying to kind of like suffer through, right? Like when I hear the word persevere and going grit, is you going against the grain, you're going up the river. And if I'm wrong, then that definition is wrong for me. But if the definition of grit and grind is going against what it is natural for you, like going up the river, your own personal river, then I disagree with the grit, because we talk about this. You need to change your environment so that your river is actually flowing down, and you actually, gliding down the river with it and not going up against it.
Yeah. Because I kind of agree with part of what you're saying here, because they talk about like how willpower can only get you so far. It's a pretty weak muscle, so really like changing your environment or changing your frame and your network, or you're not your network, but like your subjective understanding of something. How you said like, yeah, quitting coffee was easy after you knew about it.
You're both exactly dead on right, and you're in 100% alignment with what I'm thinking as well. You strategically need to pick an activity, a hard thing or whatever it is, and then you have to persevere initially through it just to find out, does it align or does it not align? Does it truly align? Is it something you find some sort of a passion or joy?
That's why I think I diverge from your thought, is because for me, it's like instead of trying different things, try to understand first.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it's also fun just to try new stuff, because sometimes you never know what's going to come out of that. Like Year of Magical Learning, the whole entire journey that we're on came out of one of those 30-day challenges where I was like, hey, I've been reading a lot and I want to share, and I like to write, so I want to share my thoughts with it. And then all of a sudden, I found a passion around it, right? Like it's fun to, and now we're doing these things, right? Like, but I had to endure and persevere for the first, 30, 60 days or whatever. And so I was like, shit, like now I wake up every single morning and I'm like, I can't wait to go write my reflection, for the day or whatever. Like, and now it's just, now I just have a passion.
Stupid.
For it, right? Well, sorry, not, but I mean, somebody
like look at the river and see when it's like flowing the direction he wants to go, like gaining the knowledge and like the patience almost, and then he'll get in the boat to go downstream. But like, why paddle upstream when it's like I don't
Yeah,
know.
well, why even pad upstream for a week or for
It's
a
good.
day?
It's good exercise. It's good
Yeah,
exercise.
it is good
Yeah,
exercise.
you got to push yourself, and then all of a sudden, maybe you found like a new stream that you can go turn down or whatever that you didn't even know was there.
I mean, Chris, there's something that I like about what you're talking about. It's like, yeah, you don't know what you don't know, obviously. And when doing something that is usually out of your comfort zone, you usually end up finding maybe it's a trick the brain does almost to find some reason and some worthwhile need for it. But even if it is that, it is an interesting thing to
Yeah,
look.
for me, I think I'm a little bit, kind of concerned and also kind of fearful that because I can't control the conditioning of things that happens to me because your brains is your friend, okay? And so your brain's like your elephant and the rider, right? You have a conscious and subconscious. What happened is whenever you do something over and over again, it reinforces the brain. Say, hey, Chris and True, or if I do something over and over again, they say if that's is what I need to do, then I need to reinforce it, make it feel good, so that I do it over again the next time. You conditioning yourself, right? And your brain doesn't know that, you know, it just thinks that whatever you do again and again, that you must like it. And so it's going to adapt to the conditioning. So it drives your emotion. So you like, the molecule of more, you have certain things that you keep doing it. We're talking about, you mentioned like earlier, Snow, about, your like the nurture versus nature, right? It's a molecule. It's more, some people have more, some people have less, right? And we know that. And to me, I think that's because a certain type of people inherit a certain conditioning. And so they said, oh, I'm very competitive. You look at a culture, for example, in America, it's very competitive, right? We're all trying to achieve more because that's the culture of more wanting to drive you to get the next phase, the next step, the next bigger house, the next bigger car, the next Tesla, the next mansion, the next vacations, or whatever. And to me, that's more prominent in the Western world than in Europe or whatnot. I'm just saying that depending on the culture, you're conditioned certain things. So for me, that trying to do something just for the habit of getting the habit done, you might be able to trick your brain into liking it.
But what if one of your values was challenge yourself, because then you're just like, my monthly challenge is whether I like them or not is still aligning to my values, so it's kind of like an inception,
Going to give you the illusion of liking something, but in reality it's not. Right?
I agree.
To me, there is a degree of concern I have for doing things to create a habit without kind of go through the kind of thought experiment first and try and say, okay, do I understand this? This is have something that aligns with the core values, and then can I try it? Does it feels like it is giving me what I want versus trying to do that and tricking my brain to kind of like accept and I reaffirm a lot of things I do to say, hey, you're doing this because you like it,
Right.
and so
I think it just comes down to what Chris was talking about. Are you living by your values, though?
but
So,
that's the thing, is how do you know your values until you really know your value?
It's an
Because the thing
interesting
is,
question.
because the thing is, if because go back to what you told me before, like without the atomic bomb you had, I would willing to bet you would still embrace the grind value up till now, because that's what you've been doing until something shook you and opened your eyes. Because if something didn't open your eyes, you were conditioned to wanting to grit and grind. Would you agree with that, Chris?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because
I mean,
you
the
are
whole
a high
hustle
achiever.
culture,
You are a really
right.
high achiever before your atomic bomb happens.
Right.
And so that, to me, that's you were going up the river and you say, hey, this is what I'm pumped, right? But then you ignore your episode of, number of episode. I mean, it just you get a panic attack a number of times. You just say, I don't know, maybe something else. It's not, you don't think of these values causing you to have that panic attacks.
I think it's Well, I wrote it on here. I was like, the true key for finding grit is, in my personal view, to align your values to the activities you do, and the passion will eventually follow if it's meant to be, right? Then if it doesn't ever happen and you keep doing stuff over and over again, then maybe that's not something you really value.
But
That's
I
a
think
deeper
you,
question.
in a slightly different universe,
Right.
you would have still been the grit and grind and the overachiever Chris today.
But it was breaking me down, though.
I said we don't know that though.
I guess, yeah, we don't
It's a
know.
possibility. That's why I'm saying, hey, there is a possibility that you are grabbing the wrong values and don't even know it, and continue to carry that values. And
It could be
then
the same
until
now.
let's say, you did it and you're 50 years old. And you say, well, this is not the right bag that I was carrying, right? I took the wrong bag, right? Well,
Right.
fuck, you're 50 years old.
What are you trying to tell Chris?
I'm saying is, we got to think a little bit. We got to do a little bit. Don't just jump in and do just because that could lead you to being, pick up the wrong bag. You got to check the bag first and say, hey, this bag is mine. It has what I needed. Rather than say, I'm going to be the first. I'm going to speed. I'm going to just grab the bag that I think that's mine and then just grab it and run with it. And, sometime later, you look at the bag and say, hey, that's not my bag. That's not the sack that I'm trying to carry on my shoulders. All of the effort that I've gone through life. And at the end of the journey, or close to the end of the journey, I found I was carrying the wrong sack of values.
For sure. And I'll say this is why I love True as a co-founder and my kind of partner in crime every single day, because I have a natural tendency to want to just jump into the pond and we'll figure it out. He's a little bit more like, let's pump the brakes here and
wait for the winds to change.
right. So no, but it always ends up, because I can't tell you how many.
we're talking, moments. I'm just gonna go to the desert. I'm just gonna go straight. I think I can make it, right?
I'll figure it out.
You have to look for the omens.
Well, I think that you could look at that too. Like, success begets success. So I think, whether you start out with things small and then like you become more confident. But I think that Chris is like, takes on these things because he's been successful in other things.
Well, I think,
and almost like, now like it's found a way to kind of like
it's systematized and aligned where it wasn't before.
Exactly. It wasn't aligned. So and that just makes it kind of like easier to do, I guess. And the grit will just be a natural byproduct. It's like, no, I'm writing for 20 minutes. That's just what I'm doing and gaining that muscle.
If you were to add up all the amount of time that I put into this project, it's kind of mind blowing, honestly. I was doing this the other day. I spend on average, whether it be audiobooks or reading, somewhere about an hour and a half to 2 hours a day of learning, right? This takes me about an hour-ish every morning to write every single day to do this stuff. And then we have like a 30-minute discussion at some point in time as well. So that's almost 3 hours a day of my entire life for the past couple years of my life that I've been doing this stuff. That's a lot. That takes a lot to persevere through it. And but it doesn't, it's easy because I don't have to think about it, because I like all these things. I like learning. I like writing. I like sharing these thoughts. I like having these conversations with you guys, because it's not eat the frog for me. It's eat the cake, right? It's like, this is fun. It's embracing my molecule more.
Where do you taste for the frog?
What's that?
Yeah, true. What do you want to change about? Like, if you could make like, what's actually one, because sometimes it does seem like, yeah, maybe you just pick up things and run with them. Like, just like, hey, ooh, there's an interesting thing to chase. Like, what are you really trying to work on in your life?
That's a great question. So this is why I do these monthly challenges, because it allows for my randomness to discover some new stuff, right? Maybe I don't know everything, and we all know this stuff. So this is why I love the hard thing rule for me, because it's a way to align to my values and also to not align to my values. I don't know, right? Like, this whole letting go, idea for the month, like of doing the death cleaning that I'm doing this month. Like, I don't know if it's good. I remember I did one of these was like, I tried to be bored for 10 minutes a day, where I literally would no meditation, no nothing. Like, you couldn't do anything, just twiddle your thumbs. And I remember telling True, that was the hardest thing I've ever done. Like, I could not do it. That was the only one.
Bored, yeah, not even meditate, just sit there and just be idle and think and think and think.
You can't think because you gotta.
Well, that almost sounds like that meditation though to me.
But maybe
meditation. Meditation, you're supposed to focus on one thing. But the point is that clearly didn't align, right? So I do not want to have passion, and I'm not going to have perseverance around that because it did not align.
It could. To me, it depends on the understanding. So perhaps if for me to do nothing, it's going to help me with my mental health or whatever. If that's the benefit, then I may do it. Right? I may do it for the sake of having the benefit.
Yeah.
right?
Right.
But like, right now, I mean, I'm just making an example, it's not that's the case. Will be whatever the benefit that you want to reap, then it may be something that makes it easier to do, even though you get bored out of your mind.
Yeah. I think grit is the reason why the book became popular, is because it is true in our society that if you do have grit and you persevere and take the long haul towards achieving a goal, you usually will be more successful than not, compared to just going by your whims and emotions. So for me, what activities can you try out today that reflect your values that might turn into a passion?
Pick any value and say, hey, I'm going to test something out, and do a hard thing rule.
I don't know the answer, so I'm
Right.
gonna inquire this for myself about, like, for this next week. What activity I could try out today that reflect, but yet to me this question doesn't really instill gritness though. To me this question, it almost is like more like a what a beautiful question or something, from that book or something. Like,
Right.
I feel like a question for like grit would be like where where did you fail with grit before, and what can you do to change that so you can end up having more perseverance next time? I don't know.
You could do that, but it all starts with passion, right? Like, because how do you know what you're passionate about? You don't until you do it. You got to persevere in the beginning. Like True said, you need to pick something that you think might align to something you care about already. And then from there, you got to persevere until you figure if it's a passion or not. And then if it's a passion, then you get the molecule more kicking in, and then you don't have to persevere anymore. Then it's just eating cake all day long.
So the thing is, you have to strategically find the directions, right? And then you go into the directions and see if it gets easier as it goes. If it does not, then stop.
Right.
Because it's supposed to become easier.
Correct. And if it's not, then you're eating the frog, and that's the problem. Don't eat the damn frog, because that's gross.
You're gonna develop hives and
Right.
body, kind of bodily trying to reject the kind of things you trying to ingest that's not compatible, right? You need to stop.
Exactly.
Some people just don't acquire a taste by continuing to do the things that's not going to accepted by the body. It's going to make it worse and worse.
Love it. Well, I actually need to probably end this one now if we can, because I gotta get going here myself.
Yeah.
Great discussion in general for anybody else that's still tuning in. The question, of what activities can you try out today that would reflect your values, and who knows, maybe it just turns into a passion and you can persevere. That would be something to think about. And we appreciate everybody for listening in, and thanks guys for the conversation. We'll talk again here soon.
Sounds good.